To try and explain what I'm doing, I sat in the car, took a bunch of measurements, and then I transferred them to paper. And I just want to point out, I understand that this is probably not how 98% of the people do their roll bars, cages, whatever. We have overbent. So, this was a practice bar. Really would have preferred not to have done that, but I did. So we're gonna cut it and do it again. Okay, well, listen, I am man enough to admit when I did something wrong, and once again, I have done something wrong. Listen, this isn't impressive by any means, but this is the first time I have bent something in the same shape that I intended it to be. So there's your line, and this worked okay. I was still a little confused on it, so this just was not making sense to me. So what I did was I reverted back to just visual stuff. I'm a very visual person, and again, I just want to stipulate, most people that do these probably know what the hell they're doing. I am not that person. This video is gonna suck. This is not what I wanted, but I think at this point, it is what it is. But it's basically exactly how I wanted it, which is amazing, all things considered, because I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. But man, I have seen some roll cages that don't look half as good as that. Some of them made by professionals. I'm just gonna say that I am very proud of myself. This is definitely something that has been weighing on my mind for a long time, and I just didn't think I was ever gonna be ready. I hemmed and hawed about buying the software. I really kind of went back and forth about buying a pre-made one or paying someone to do it. But I already had the bar and I have a bender, and it's like, just try it, right? Because you already have all this stuff. So this makes me feel really good. I was telling my wife, I'm not even sure how I did it. I just checked everything 4 times and then hoped for the best, and it worked out. That's how it happened. And it looks great. I'm actually super happy with how it came out. I'm extremely happy with how this looks. Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this episode, we are going to put a roll cage in this car. And hopefully, as long as everything goes okay, we will be putting a new engine in here as well. But right now we gotta work on the roll cage. That's the hard part. We're gonna do that first, and then we will work on the fun stuff later. So let's get started. All right, it's the heart of summer. We are starting on some tube bending. What we are doing is the first bend that really matters on this thing. So I have bent small amounts of tube that I made for the transmission mount. This is going to be the start of the roll cage. So based on the guide that I'm following, I need to get a 90-degree bend so I can mark out everything. So this is the first time we're going to go ahead and just bend some 1 3/4. We're going to get this guy bent to a 90. We're going to get our marks made, and then we will see about next steps. I'm a little unsure about this. Never made myself a roll cage before, but it seems pretty straightforward based on what it is I want to do, which is not terribly complicated. So let's just get started. Doesn't look great. Not a good start. All right, well, I looked it over and I couldn't figure out why it's hitting that tube. Maybe that's why they say you're supposed to bend from the inside out, because it hits over there. I don't know. Let's just bend this to 90. I mean, it looks like there's pressure. It just seems like it's bound up on that edge. All right, so doing some looking online, it seems like this angle bracket here that gives you a little more leverage, I think. You can put the ram directly to this bolt, and then this kicks. So if it's here, it would be there, and it moves all of it out this way. So I think I'm gonna try that. I did put a little bend in it already, but if I don't undo this part and I just release the ram, it should stay and it should bend the same amount. I don't want this to keep happening because this is not repeatable, right? This is not what you want. So let me take this apart and then we will see if it makes a difference. All right, I did some looking, I did some finagling. So what I think this plate was on backwards. So this plate was shifted so that it was out this way, and what it was doing is causing the arm to be further in towards the material. So what I've done is I put it over here, which extends the arm out, which kind of cocks it over a little bit. So we're gonna try this. It's a theory. If it doesn't work, I can put it in this bolt hole here, But as of now, I think that this will work. So let's see. See, my concern now is that it's kind of bowing the ram out. I don't really like that, but we're definitely further here. All right, so clearly that was not correct. So what we have done is moved it to this hole. We just left that guy there. I think this is gonna be better because we were overextending the ram. It was also hitting on this spacer here when it was in this hole. So that just doesn't seem like the best setup. I don't know, maybe somebody custom made that? I have no idea. It was on the bender when I bought it. So let's just see if we can get further than 35 degrees, which we already have passed. So good step. There's 90. And we'll go a little further. Spring back. So let's see how that looks. All right, so come to find out it was not 90, so we are going to pump it up some more. So let's see if just basically we're at 90. So we're lined there, eyeball. I don't know if we line this one up. Like so. Out a little that way. Seems to me like it needs to be bent more. And then with spring back, probably needs to be bent even more. Let's see, 98. Boy, talk about missing the mark. So here we are straight, rest of the tube, and we have overbent. Hold on, let me get it right here. We have overbent. So, you know, this was a practice bar. Really would have preferred not to have done that, but I did. So we're gonna cut it and do it again. All right, so we used a metal blade. We got our cut off. That's, you know, our like 9800 degree. I don't know what it is. It's not the right. I have a protractor coming tomorrow that'll make that make sense. Anyway, so we're at 0 again. So we're gonna try and do a little, like, we're gonna do 90 and then measure it and see how it is. Unless this is off, I have the play taken out of the tube. So in the die, it is tight, all right? It doesn't move back and forth. So that to me is 0, right? Like 0 lash on a valve. The bolt's tight and the clamp is in. So we're just gonna start, going here. Let's see what happens. Let's try that. All right, so here we are. We bent it to 90, and we are probably right at 90. I'd say that's probably pretty good. I'm gonna take it out and take a look. Okay, so because of spring back, I think we need to go a little further. We obviously are not totally at 90 here. So we're gonna put it back in and hope that I can just add a little more. Let's see. All right, so 91.5 seems to get us there. It's very, very close. I think if you were to extend this bar out, it would probably be flat. Maybe 92 is the play. I don't know, I'll throw it in there tomorrow. Kind of ran out of time tonight. But as of right now, that's at least 90. And I have the marks that I need. So the die was here. It actually started bending there and there. So now I have at least the measurements and the run to complete the next portion. Nice. Now we have a win. So here's where we're gonna start. So the guide that I am following was written by this guy, Rob Park. He posted it on Pirate 4x4 some time ago. It's no longer on the website, I don't think. It's on a PDF. You can find it on the internet. I'll link it in the description. Anyways, that's what I'm following. So to try and explain what I'm doing, I sat in the car, took a bunch of measurements, yeah, and then I transferred them to paper. And I just want to point out, I understand that this is probably not how 98% of the people do their roll bars, cages, whatever. But this is really basic stuff. I don't have a lot of weird angles. I'm not interested in like doing this for a full-time job. I just happen to have a bender. I happen to need a roll bar. this guy says that this will work. So we're gonna do it this way. So bear with me. And obviously this is my first time doing it, so it's gonna be slow learning. And math was never my favorite. So anyways, here we are, all the measurements. A lot of this stuff is, you know, just initial measurements, and then I need to actually solidify some things once the B pillar hoop is done. But what he instructed was to lay out the grid of the measurements of the inside of the car, right? How narrow it needs to be at the top, and then how wide it needs to be at the bottom. My cage is gonna be super simple. Fortunately, I have what looks to be enough room to come straight up from here, just kind of take a slight bend, right, in this area, and then come over, straight line, and another straight line in the same fashion. So the B pillar should be actually pretty easy, and I sat in here with stuff about where I want it to be, and it actually will be okay. The harness bar will come right above where my knee currently is, which is about the right area for in between the shoulder and the elbow per NHRA guidelines. Anyhow, so once you get a square, which I'll be honest, it did take me a little while, but we got that done. I marked it permanently. And then you take the measurement of the narrowest portion, make a mark, and then I'm gonna call it a cheater piece. So this is a perfect 90 that I bent. And then what you can do is you take it, you line it up with the top there, and you line it up with the edge here. Once it's lined up, wherever the die stopped bending it, mark it there. And then you do the same on this side, take it to there, line it at the top, and then that mark lines up. So then once you have all those done, which we have here, and there's not gonna be a bend down here, so it's gonna be a straight line, you can measure the distance between all these points, and you get how long your bar needs to be with the bend in it. Now I did buy a digital protractor, and I worked out that that angle is 103.5. Now I'm sure there's a way more scientific, technical, mathematical way to figure out this bend, but this guy says this is all you gotta do. You just put all your measurements on the bar. Once you get it, the center line done, my bar's up there, I'm gonna take one down and cut it. But basically, once you set the center line, you measure out to this point. That's where the die will stop bending it. You bend it till it gets to that point, and then you bend it again and it goes to there. This seems really simple. Of course, I've said that before, but I really don't think that this will be extra complicated just because I don't need a lot of weird bends. Now, when we get to the down bars in the back, that may be a little more complicated, but I'm still pretty sure that I can figure that out as well, given that it's only one bend. It probably could be one bend depending on how I run it. I do want to run it as far as I can on the outside so it's not visible, but we'll see how it goes. So that's what we're gonna do. Family wants to go do something, I might cut that bar and then I'll get to bending and I'll show you how that goes. All right, and here we are after the first bend. So I got a little nervous. I bent this first one, had to run and go do something yesterday. When I put, you know, a meaningful bend, the amount that I was supposed to on this side here, I laid it on the floor, and the outside that it can be max is here. Obviously that's not gonna work. I need to bend it a little further in so that I can get that over and down into the rocker area. Super out of my element at the moment, kind of just going slow and steady, trying to feel my way through it, trying to make sure I don't screw anything up because I really don't want to buy any more of these if I don't have to. And I would like it to look nice, fit nice, and ultimately be safe. And there, we're gonna do those two bends and we're gonna hope it fits in this box. And if it does, then we're gonna move on to the next step. Once again, I have done something wrong. So here we are, lined up perfectly at the top where I want it to be. And here we are with this bend on too tight of a radius, and it intersects in the wrong area. It needs to be over there. So I guess I didn't realize the spring back was as little as it is, because it seems like this is not much of a difference. I mean, there's maybe 4 or 5 degrees there. Clearly I need to check more often. This was an expensive mistake. I think I can reuse this for something else. Possibly use this for, I don't know, the harness bar, the door bar. Probably gonna be okay. I don't have to throw it away or anything. But it's certainly not what I wanted. So we're gonna grab another one. I only have 2 more. Probably gonna end up buying another one just in case. But we're gonna try this again and be a little slower this time. It's just tough by myself trying to mock this thing in here because, you know, it weighs like, I don't know what these bars weigh, like 50, 70 pounds, something like that. And then I put it back in the die and then the whole thing's off and it wants to bend and twist in the die. It's kind of hard by yourself, so I set up like a little jack system. Gets it up off the ground about where it needs to be with the bender. We're learning right now, and it's a slow process. So let me try this again. Super upsetting because I've already cleaned the other one. It took me 5 or 10 minutes to get it clean. So. Now listen, this isn't impressive by any means, but this is the first time I have bent something in the same shape that I intended it to be. So there's your line, there's your center line, and there she is, following that line exactly. I crept up on this thing. It took me probably 4 times longer than someone who knew what they were doing would do, but I got it where I wanted it. And yes, this is only one bend, but that's the right bend. We're gonna put it back in the bender and we're gonna do this one, and then we're gonna make some measurements and make sure everything looks good. And then hopefully I can start taking the interior apart, because that would be the next step. All right. Okay, we made something. We made a hoop. So this is almost exactly how I want. The only thing is this is out a little bit, but I figured that's the side I want to err on. I can always use a ratchet strap to get it where I want. Can't use a ratchet strap in the other direction. Next steps. I don't know what the next steps are. I've never done this before, but I would imagine you need to cut this and make it fit in the car. I don't know how I ended up with so much extra. I put 2 extra inches, not 10 extra inches. That looks like 10. Which is fine. I guess it's better than being short. I'll verify once I get the car torn apart, but that's cool. That's a good step. Okay, so what do I think? I think the interior needs to come apart because I don't know how to make these bars yet until this center is put in, and then I can't make the harness bar and I can't make the door bars. But this was the hardest one because this is the first one. So I'm feeling good. So we're gonna call it here tonight. And then maybe tomorrow or the next day, we'll see about getting the interior apart. Let me just say on camera, I have been working like a dog at work during the summer this summer. I've covered it on my social medias for the wall filter, but basically I'm a school IT person, and what that means is during the summer when no one's there, we can make changes. When people are there, it's really hard to make changes and they have to be urgent. Right now, we are rebuilding the network at all of our schools. So we are taking all of the old network gear out. We are tracing lines. We are putting up new access points. We're putting in new core switches. I mean, it is intensive and it is an all day thing. As soon as I get to work and as soon as I leave, that whole time, we're go, 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 go. So to come home and work on this stuff, not my favorite right now, but I know that safety is definitely important and I'm putting this as a priority over the fun stuff. So having said that, it is difficult to find the drive to come out here and do this, but I think given how important it is, we're just gonna make it work. So fingers crossed that we can get this thing going. It is a whole different day. We have started taking the interior apart. Got you on time lapse there. So basically we're gonna get all this stuff out of here and then we're gonna start fitting the mount for the bar, right? So the main hoop that goes over the driver's head needs somewhere to go. It's currently not flat, at least I don't think it is. So I need to get the carpet out, I need to get the seats out, I need to take a look and just see what the floor looks like, and then see if I need to actually make a little, like I was talking about before, a little brace that comes up, and then we can weld it to the top. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna just see if we can get this thing torn apart and see what we find. All right, unfortunately, as happens with the GoPro, my time lapse shut off. So as you saw, I got half the interior torn apart. I got the rest torn apart, clearly. At this point, I'm gonna cut the tubing on the other side, and I'm gonna just see if I can fit it into the car and see how everything looks. I've taken some measurements. I know it's not gonna fit now, but I'm gonna creep up on that measurement. Once I add the plate in there, it's gonna take up a little more distance, so I really don't wanna overdo it or underdo it too much. So it's gonna be a slow process, put you on time lapse for all this, and then you can watch me struggle. All right, so a bit of an update. Kind of got decision paralysis on a lot of these things. I'm trying to make the right decision for the future and trying to set myself up how I want it and then how it's safe, right? So I really would like the bar to be parallel with these body lines. It's parallel. The camera's distorting it a little bit. And then, you know, got to make sure the other side's in the same way. Got a makeshift centering system. Goes to the shifter and then a bungee in the back. If you look down there, we're at the rocker. And on this side, we're not, but it's close, right? So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ratchet strap this thing when I go to weld it, just to get it in a bit so I can actually get the nozzle down in there to weld it all the way around. But for now, you know, it's a good preliminary step. And considering I've never done this before, as I've pointed out a few times, I'm pretty happy with the fitment. I think the next thing I'm gonna do is the down bars in the back, which means I need to take the speakers out and the parcel shelf. But I don't foresee the door bars being an issue, but I definitely see those being an issue. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go along the roof line and I'm gonna just try and do it in the C-pillar as far as I can to that side. This is not an 850 cage. Technically, I shouldn't go faster than 999 with this. If the engine and everything works out and the suspension works, it probably will go faster, but we will see where I land with that. All right, and sometime later we have a tubing notcher that actually works. So the first one, it was way off. Like the cut was just not even in the same plane. Super weird. So I did it again. It was a little bit better. I went a little bit slower. That certainly helped. But it was still a smidge off. Come to find out, if you look online, a lot of the times the V-block doesn't line up. Anyways, you use the washers that come with it. Use your own washers on the other side. Aligns it right up. Good to go. So anyways, this is what we got. So wow, that looks freaking awesome. I mean, now that I have all that done, which took way too long, is we're gonna make the down bar here, but I wanted to get this done so I knew exactly how much material and like if this angle is even gonna work, etc., etc. But I'm not really sure if it should be over here or what the deal is, because I am gonna have to weld this and then consider being able to reach everything. I don't know, I'll figure it out. But anyway, so I'm gonna take the speakers out. This is done. This makes me feel better because that's totally usable. I don't have to do it by hand, which would probably take too long. So I'm gonna take a bunch of measurements and see if I can figure out how to get the down bars at least bent tonight, and then I will move on from there. And just a shout out, Kill Tony is probably the best show to have on when you're in the shop. If you can't actually see your TV and you just want to listen to it, and every once in a while you can just look up and glance, just some of the funniest stuff. This is the episode with Biden and Trump, and it is nonstop good stuff. Anyway, let's get to work. All right, it's almost midnight. I'm done. So I ended up working on taking out the back seat, which is a pain. And then I worked on getting the insulation out from the 6x6 square on both sides. So now I am working on trying to get this weird ass angle here at least thought out. It's a lot of compound bends, and 1/8 inch steel is just difficult. But what I have is this little guy here, and then I have transferred some of the bend to it, just kind of creeping up on it. My concern though is that once I have this bent like the floor, I will not have a flat surface to put the bar on. Now normally that wouldn't be a problem, except I didn't make the bar super long before I cut it. Does that make sense? It's too late, sorry. What I did was I cut the bar because I thought I was gonna make a flat plate and a plateau, but after looking at a bunch of other guys, they did it so that it contours the floor, and then brought the bar down to it. Now, I do have some space. I mean, it's at a bad angle right now, but it's basically touching the headliner when it's all in. So, probably be all right, but I don't know. We'll have to see when we get there. All right, everyone, good morning. So I had a moment last night to think about what I was doing with the bottom of the roll cage in the main hoop going on the floor. And I did some research. And I did some looking online, and a lot of people will just build this area up. And I think that's what I'm gonna do, because trying to contour these 1/8" plates is really a pain. And then the other thing I was thinking is it says a 6x6 plate, but it doesn't say that the landing area has to be 6x6. So what I might do is bend it here and then just have this portion contact the floor, and then whatever happens over here, we just box it in and get it good to go. And we'll do the same on the other side. So then the next thing that was kind of a curious problem. So the down bar that goes to the back, you know, like I said yesterday, I'm gonna follow the contours of the roof line and then the sill plate. But there's these little holes right about here under this. I'll take this off quickly. No, there's holes in there in the package tray, and I'm gonna go through there. But what that does on the driver's side is presents a problem. So with the mini tubs, you have reduced the amount of space here, right? So it actually brought all of this out. Well, if you look right there is where the hole is. Well, a straight line, there it is. A straight line is not gonna really do this, right? A straight line is gonna hit right here. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to come down, bend it, come down, and then hit this portion, because this is where I want it. Well, I don't know, maybe in the center. It really doesn't matter, somewhere in this area. The other side's gonna be super easy. So you can see there's the hole. It'll just basically be a straight line with a bend here on the end. I found some guy online, I'll insert the picture now. He had the same issue. He had a mini tub, 4-door, and his looked great. And he brought it to about there. On this side had a weird bend, and this side is a little bit more flat, as you can see. So we'll get that figured out. I'm gonna have to do a few bends. This will be a little more complex for me since, you know, I've only done really one other set of bends, and that was pretty easy. It was just a square. All right, and here's what I've come up with. So obviously I have to make a filler piece for that. I could probably try and pound that flat to the floor, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something I'd want to do because it'll deform the other side. And currently, it fits great to the floor. So we got a nice flat place to put a tube right there in the middle. So we got the plinths made. Pretty sure that's how you say it. I don't know how else you would. Plinth, maybe? Plinth? Anyhow, they are done. I am not going to make those fill-in plates until everything is finalized, but at least I know what they're supposed to look like. Floor is marked. I need to take the paint and stuff out of there. But I'm really happy with how it looks. Looks super legit. Looks like it's going to be safe, and I'm pretty happy. So I have devised a bit of a proof of concept, if you will. So basically, I took some rough measurements of how long the bar needed to be before the bend. We're here. And then took some measurements and just happened to have a piece of scrap that lined up with it. So as you can see, it's meeting down there at the floorboard, or the frame rail, I should say. And I have it kind of wedged there. So what I did then is I said, okay, all of that seems to be all right. And then I took my angle gauge and I put it in that tube, put it in the paper tube, and I said, what angle is that? And it came out to 136 degrees. But my only other question I need to do some research on is where should it land in the tube? I feel like I've seen them kind of in the middle of the bend, but I feel like I've also seen them like right at the top at the end of the bend. It can go right in the center of the tube. It's a straight line from there to there. So we are gonna do some research on that and we'll see what we find. All right, y'all, let's start from the beginning here. So this was the original layout. We've gone over this a few times and this worked okay. I was still a little confused on it. So I tried to apply this to the bar I'm doing now. So this is gonna be the down bar. So use a very faint line you can see right here to right here, and it's a box using that corner there, right? So I tried to figure out like the maximum distance and the maximum height, length, all that stuff. This just was not making sense to me. So what I did was I reverted back to just visual stuff. I'm a very visual person, and with that, I needed something that I could see that made sense to me. So what I did was I took this guy, which already has a fish mouth to it, and I laid this up here on the bar where I think it was going to intersect with the bar, right, in real life. So it would look something like that. And I looked at a lot of different roll bars, because this is not a cage. And a lot of them, you know, it didn't really matter if it was up here or down here, but quite a few I saw were right in the middle of the bend. So I said, okay, that's probably the move. So then I said, all right, what I need to do, and this is gonna be like really difficult to show you with one hand, but I got this to a 90, right? Because that's what we're working with. And I said, all right, so if the top of the tube is here, and then I need the bar to not be in this space, but at least come to this area and come down, right? Because I'm going in through here. What angle is that? And I took my fancy protractor, and this is not gonna work because that's not squared up, right? But just squint your eyes and imagine. And I said, what angle would make all of this make sense? And it's like 136, which is crazy because I just free balled it and I just took this thing and set it in here before I had any of this stuff set up. And it looked like 136, but the little mathy thing I did on the floor over there, it's not even math, it's just caveman shit, didn't match. So I said, something's wrong. I don't know how other people do this. I am positive this is not how other people do this, but this is gonna work. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna creep up on the angle and I'm gonna keep fitting it because it looks like 139 could also work. So I'm gonna start at 140 and see if the tube will slide right in. The thing that is confusing to me, and you know, again, I just wanna stipulate, most people that do these probably know what the hell they're doing. I am not that person. So my first confusion here is where to start my bend, right? Because if I start the bend over here in the die, then maybe the end of it comes over here. And that's why I was trying to use this floor method, because ultimately I don't know where to start it. So I'm gonna have to figure that out, but at least I know what the bend is now. So at 138, this lines up with the roof line, and then this, so we're on the back side of this, not this side, but this side. This is the back side of the bar, and the bar would come right to the floor. So it looks to me, by this just super weird basic layout, that from the front hoop to the back measurement should match in the car, and then the rest should match from there. So if I take my tape measure, spitball math here, 25.5 inches, 25. Okay, anyways, it would start like at the start of the sail panel, which I don't know, maybe that's correct, I'm not sure. Anyways, I gotta keep thinking about this because I don't want to cut it too short or bend it too long or all those things. This video is gonna suck. This is not what I wanted, but I think at this point it is what it is. All right, here's what I've come up with. More confusion. So I said, if the B hoop starts here and the window is here at 32 inches away, my bend has to be inside of that, right? So then based on what that guy says, you take this piece, you put it here so that it hits this mark and that mark, and you mark it, and then you do the same for the other side, right? So it lines up with that one and that one, then you mark it, and then that's the degree that it needs to be. So I took 127, which is what this measured out to be, and I put it in the car. And to me, this doesn't look at all like a degree that is going to work for my scenario. So if we're looking at the outside of the protractor here, and if we line up the outside with the windowsill, which is what I wanted it to be nice. Where's that going? Where's that going? Ain't going over there. It's going to the middle of the bar right there. So what I'm gonna do, I already made the bar long because I wasn't sure exactly how much I needed. If I trust all these measurements, I need a 56 inch bar, tube, whatever. So from that point to there is like 56 inches. It's not that long. I cut it at 72 because, you know, why not? It's cheap, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go, it can't be longer than 32 inches from the window. So I'm gonna start my bend at 32, and then I'll have plenty on the other side if I need it. And then I'll just lop off what doesn't fit, because, you know, that's kind of just how we're doing things. So let's see how this goes. All right, I don't know why I doubt myself. Sometimes I just overthink things and I get frustrated, and then I keep overthinking it because I think I'm wrong. But here we have a tube that's been bent to 136 degrees, and it's almost perfect. So I need to trim and I need to fish mouth. But there she is in the landing zone, pretty close. Could probably stand to go even a little bit more, but I don't want to adjust anything until I get this end squared away and that end squared away. If it needs to go more, I will do it, but I think 136 is probably perfect, considering the way I measured with the tube and the angle, how I wanted it. You know, this tube came out perfect. That's the first step. I need to get the length correct. I need to put a fish mouth on it, and then once this end's correct, then that end will sit flat once I get it ground to the right angle, of which I will be probably guessing because I don't know how else to do it. So. All right, here's a progress update. So this was nerve-wracking, and I'm not even sure it worked out yet, but it's looking decent. Clearly we have too much length here, which I left some extra length because I didn't know what was gonna work out. But we have a bend that goes up, a bend that goes over, the bend that goes up, and the bend that goes over to the hoop. Right now we are this close to getting it in place, but because of the back length being so long, right there, I can't get it up into place. So this is a questionable cut, but I mean, I have to cut it to even get it in the car. I can't go the other way, I had to go this way, I had to bend up that lip a little bit just to get the damn bar in. And then this is where we're at. I've erroneously notched the tube preemptively, thinking because I matched it to the other tube that it wouldn't rotate when you were bending it, but clearly that's not the case. I hope this works out. I don't know yet. But it'll be turned, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure that out. If nothing else, I mean, if I have to bring the cage back, that would be the option because the other side is a little bit long anyways. So we have some room to work there. I'm pretty happy with this. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna cut that bottom and then we'll see how that looks. Here's how it looks. I need to cut a steeper angle so I can get this plate in here because right now it's so tight that it's not fitting. Clearly I need to adjust the angle a bit more sloped, but there it is. So we are close, but it's basically exactly how I wanted it, which is amazing, all things considered, because I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. So that is good. I'm happy with this. This side still looks good. So here's how it looks in the car. All right, so we got our floor position. We're a little out on that side, but that's okay. This just needs to come back a little bit. But there's that side. So we're just inside of the seal. And there we are. So it doesn't get much tighter than that. And that is just exactly how I wanted it. I mean, I guess if I were to complain a little bit, this angle should be a bit steeper to follow the actual window line. But man, I have seen some roll cages that don't look half as good as that. Some of them made by professionals, I think, or at least professional companies. Anyways, there it is. So I think the next step is just get everything cleaned up. I need to just tack some things in place, and then I can move on to the next step. I'm just gonna say that I am very proud of myself. This is definitely something that has been weighing on my mind for a long time, and I just didn't think I was ever gonna be ready. I hemmed and hawed about buying the software. I really kind of went back and forth about buying a pre-made one or paying someone to do it, but I already had the bar and I have a bender, and it's like, just try it, right? Because you already have all this stuff. So this makes me feel really good in that it's safe and it looks how I want, which I was gonna be happy with just safe, but looking how I want is amazing. So I have to go buy more metal. I guess originally I made the measurements wrong and just didn't account for a couple things. I don't need a whole lot, but I do need some more. All right, so here we are, end of the day. So I'm happy with a few things and I am unhappy with some things. I'll start with the good stuff. As I've shown you, all of this is good. I have got it all right where I want it. I need to adjust the bottom of the main hoop, but otherwise, all of this stuff is looking pretty great. I need to bend these plates and then weld them, and then I can move on to doing all that. So then I said, okay, let me work on the harness part. Should be pretty easy, right? It's 190, another 90, off you go. And then I got really wrapped up in trying to use this damn technique that I found online. And what I did was I laid this tube out and I said, okay, so this is the bend in the die, and this is the other side of the die on a 90 degree. 6.5 inches. And I said, oh, well, if you lay this tube, and this is what I did because I still have this all laid out, right? So this is where it's gonna go in the car. This is the top of my shoulder. So we're gonna attach the tube. It's gonna be basically just like this, right? We're gonna build a harness part that goes from side to side, and this is gonna be right behind the driver. And I said, okay, so if I just lay it in this plane, it's the same distance, but I can see it. So great. So I need this times 2 with some distance in the center. And I tried to figure out what the actual length was. And I said, well, I didn't realize that if this bend radius is 6 3/4, that you could just measure out 6 3/4 from here to here. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. So then I measured from the outside of the tube here to this measurement and did the same on the other side and came up with 50 inches. Well, dumb shit, you can't do it that way because if you roll the tube out, it's not, it's not 6.5 inches tube. It just creates 6.5 inches, 6 3/4 inches. I don't know. Anyways, this is just one way to waste a little more tube. I really think at this point it would have been better to just spend the money on the bendtech software, which I had considered for a while, but then I said, well, I found this guide online that makes things seem really easy, so I should probably be able to just follow that and save the money. Saving the money has cost me at least one section of tube, if not others. I am happy with the way everything else came out. I'm gonna chalk that up to me just, well, the main hoop, the technique probably helped me right there. The rest of them, I really just eyeballed and just tried to figure it out myself. I'm not even sure, I was telling my wife, I'm not even sure how I did it. I just checked everything 4 times and then hoped for the best and it worked out. That's how it happened. And that's unfortunate because that's really not how you're supposed to be doing things, but it worked out, so I'm not gonna complain. But this, I was gonna cut the tube for the harness part at 62 inches because that's what my brain figured out because I used a tape measure and I just went the distance. And then I got wrapped up in this damn math equation that I don't need to do and psyched myself out and I was like, oh, I could save a little tube, so I cut it short. What an idiot. So I'm gonna buy some more tube, which I needed to buy anyways because I didn't have enough for the door portion, I don't believe. And then should be good to go. So there we are, until next time. All right, so a bit of a side quest accomplishment here. I have been wanting to mount a trailer hitch to my wall for a while now with the intention of pushing a car out that doesn't run and having to get it back into the shop. If you follow that line, it goes right down the center of the car. So hopefully, if and when I ever need it, which I probably will, because I'm getting to the point now where I'm gonna have to take the tube out, sand it up, paint it, make it look nice to 80%, leave the ends that need to be welded unpainted. But I wanna do that with the car out because I don't wanna get a bunch of overspray on it. So the thought was, push the car out, doesn't run, pull the car back in with this guy, and then we throw the tubes in. So we're gonna get to taking the B pillar out. I need to adjust the angles a smidge, and then we'll throw her back in. Day. It's absolutely beautiful outside. I've got the door open. So what I'm trying to start on now is cleaning out the paint and everything around where I'm going to weld the plates down. So I did it on the passenger and driver's side, as you just saw. I got the plates bent up 95% of where they should be. So I think the next step, I'm going to start working with the welder. I'm going to use some scrap pieces and I'm going to just start figuring out what settings this thing wants. Obviously, when I weld to the sheet metal with the 1/8 inch plates, it's going to be different, but at least I'll know what the tubing is, and then that way I won't have to guess when I get to that point. And then when I do the sheet metal, that'll just be kind of a learning process. I put some weld on, and this was the first one. So this was a start and a stop right in the center because I didn't try and rotate. Now, the second one I did try to rotate, and and screwed up my speed. As you can see here, it got a little thin. So instead of it trying to look like all one weld, which would be nice, but I think structurally it'll be all right if I just do it a start and a stop. So I'll do a quarter of the pipe, reposition myself and do the rest of the quarter. I'm just concerned about once I actually get into close quarters, how hard it's gonna be. And I tried to represent that setup by putting it on the table on the edge here and trying to get underneath of it, because most of the welds are probably gonna be underneath. But yeah, I really won't know what it's like until I get in there and do it. So at this point, I think I'm just gonna clean up the end of the tubes. They need to be sanded, they need to be painted, at least 80% of them, so that I don't have to worry about painting in the car. And then put everything in, and hopefully by that point, the rest of my metal will get here, and we can just start at least tacking and seeing how everything looks. So that will probably be the next step. All right, so I've been trying to figure out order of operations here. I think I have figured out that I really need to make these door bars before I put everything else in place, because I'm not positive that I can get around to this backside, although it looks like I can. I just want to get these figured out before I move on to the next step. So, all right, you'll have to excuse the weird angle here. So working on the door bars, I'm trying to get this thing so that it doesn't sit on this armrest, but it also kind of bifurcates everything else. So what I have is my foot resting on this 35, 36 degree edge here, right on the spots that I have designated. And then it goes kind of in a flat plane, supposed to. There we go, straight up. Goes over the armrest. It's just, there's a lot of flex here because everything's temporary, right? So if you look, I mean, it's flat on the ground, but there's flex at all of the joints. So, whatever. And then you come back here, we're gonna land right there. I just didn't want to finalize this last piece until I knew exactly how everything was gonna fit. So, basically we just measure that one, get the angle right for the hole saw, and then we weld this one on. So I'm pretty happy with that. When you drive, you can kind of have your arm on it, which is nice, but you know, it's not straight. At least, you know, from here straight down, it just wasn't gonna make it with all the things. All right, so I got the door handle and the armrest. I don't need the armrest. Clearly I'm not gonna be able to use it, but I didn't want to take it off and just have this weird space in here, so I just decided to make it fit. So there we are. Pretty happy with it. This was difficult. There was a lot of moving parts here. You gotta make sure that the door bar is actually gonna make it out of the door. You gotta make sure that that one's high enough off the floor that it will even swing out, which it will. And then you gotta work on all these different angles and pieces, and I don't know how normal people do it. I should say people that build these cages all the time, but this is how I did it. So now that this one's done, should be the same on that side. So I'll build that one, make sure everything looks okay, put the seat in, and then if it's good, then we start welding. And now I know where my plates go on the floor, so that's good. So now I can go ahead and take the insulation off from there and get to grinding so that we can actually have a place to weld to. But that's how it's gonna look right there. I would, you know, probably prefer it more in the outside edge of that plate, but at the same time, I do want it out of my way, and over there is probably the strongest part since it's all welded together at a seam. So, whoops, I'm okay with it. We're just gonna roll with it. All right, till another day. All right, so the weekend has arrived, and we are test fitting the passenger side bar. So I just took the driver's side, and I just threw it on the passenger side. It's a little bit longer, it needs to be rotated a little bit different, but otherwise it fits just fine. So it's gonna be kicked out just a little bit to give you a little more shoulder room, because if you're sitting here, it does kind of, you do touch it. I mean, it's a small car. What can you do? There's only so many options. It's been a few hours, so tirelessly I have been working on the mounting points. Excuse the nose filter. It's pretty dirty in here. What I've been doing is getting these mounting points all squared away so that all I have to do is just weld on the outside. Whereas before I was gonna put these flush with the corner. Now they're underneath. Figure if there was actual load here ever, then you would want them underneath and not on the outside stressing the weld. So now they look a little better. So we got both sides done there. You can even see that. And there it is. So we did that on both sides, like I said, over there as well. So now I'm gonna do that one and this one. They should be a little bit easier because there's only one fill-in piece that needs made. And then I will fully weld these out on the backside, right? So that basically all you have to do is just weld them to the floor. So that'll be nice. So after that, I then will be pushing the car out. This took a little longer than anticipated. One thing that I can recommend for anybody doing this is if you're gonna try and contour your floor, get one of these guys. Saves you a ton of time. I tried doing it with cardboard and it was close, but it wasn't good. That guy, it's great. So there we are, moving on to the next step. All right, well, we got the painting done. Now we need to get the car back in the garage. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna put the boards down so that it's not right up against the lip, causing a bunch of stress. So, what's that? Why do you do this? Okay, I think that this is very successful. So that is good news. FTL Fab, guy I follow on Instagram. I saw one day that he had painted most of the cage before he put it in. I thought to myself, what a great idea, because I'm sure it's a pain to paint when it's inside the car. So I just left the ends. Obviously I couldn't do a whole lot with the main hoop, since it's gonna have so many points attaching to it from here down, but I just got the center, which, you know, I'm sure that'll help. So that's what we're doing. All this is ready to go. I vacuumed everything. So next time we come out here, we're just gonna put that little welder to work. Nice. All right, so after a long day of work, here we are in the shop. We're gonna be working probably till midnight tonight. It's 9 o'clock currently. We're just gonna try and get these guys welded in there. So we're gonna start slow. I'm gonna put the B-pillar in. I'm gonna put the down bars in and just get those tacked and to see how everything fits with all the plates and everything like they're supposed to be. Then I'm gonna take the plates out, make sure I can get to everything that I need to, and then we're just gonna burn them in. So this should be pretty straightforward. It has me very nervous because there was a lot of work getting to this point, and given that I didn't really even know how I got to this point with all the bends and everything, it's gonna be kind of hard to replicate. But worst case scenario, I cut it out and I just remake them. So there we are, let's get going. All right, well, last night went pretty good. So we got the 2 rear bars welded in. I wish I didn't have to start right there with my welding on a bar. I have done some practice, but it was not real world, like above my head in a weird position. Not the best, but it'll work. Let me show you. So there we are. And there we are. They're right where I want them, so that's good. I wish I had maybe more space. So I took the plinths out and it didn't really give me a whole lot of space. It maybe gave me an inch or so, which was enough that I could get the gun in here, but I had a few start stops and it just doesn't look as nice as I would like. But I think structurally it's fine, no problem. So we are good to go back here. I am not going to do any of the actual structural welding to the car until, well, not only until I get all the hoses and stuff from underneath the car taken out, but I also need to The harness bar to make sure that I can get all the way around it. I'm pretty sure it'll be no problem. If I look, you can't see that. If I look here, I can see exactly where at most it would be required to weld, and I can get to all that. But just in case there's something I'm not thinking of, I'm gonna make the harness bar now, and then I'll go ahead and do the door bars and stuff, and then I'll weld it to the floor. So that will set everything, and then it's just a floating cage inside the car that then welds to the floor, and off it goes. So we're looking pretty good. You know, it's a slow process for me. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't screw something up, most of all, and make sure it looks nice. So there we are.
Yeah, I still have it. Can you get like good?
As you just saw, we got the harness bar welded in. This was kind of tough for me. I had to kind of guesstimate on the length. I knew the outside length, but putting it in the bender and doing all that stuff, I didn't have the software. I just kind of had my eyeballs and a tape measure, and I tried to make it work. I was about a ½ inch off, so I had to use a ratchet strap, and I had to use a scissor jack to get the bars spread open a little bit to get them welded in, or to get the harness bar welded in. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Take a look. So one of the things I learned was if you put 4 tacks all the way around the bar, you can go from tack to tack in a sequence, and that way you don't have like weird gaps in between. So I'm pretty happy with this. It's definitely gonna hold up just fine. There you go, it's not going anywhere. So the next step, we are gonna have to weld in the door bars, and then once that's done, we can put it in the actual weld it to the floor. So pretty happy with it, like I said, but that's the next thing. All right, we're in the 80s today. It's pretty warm in here, but we are getting things put in. So I just started painting, but I wanted to show you before I did. Then we got the floor plates put in. Hopefully you can see that. Looks pretty good. We got this side done as well. Doesn't look quite as good. Looks pretty good. It's a weird position for me. Still not the best welder, but we at least got this stuff done. So the tube that goes, the actual door bar is over there drying. So once that's done, we'll throw everything in, just make sure it still fits. If it doesn't, don't know what we're gonna do because it's all locked in, but at least it's almost done. So once I get this painted, I'll move over to the other side, see what we can do. All right, everyone, it is a new day. We got a lot done yesterday. Had to stop for a little while, had some things to do, but this is as far as we got. So a little advantageous on this side, I started painting down the tube and forgot, oh yeah, I gotta put a door bar in, so I'll be sanding some of that off. But we got that side basically completely done. So it's welded to the floor on both sides. Everything is welded in place, obviously except for the rotation portions. And it looks great. I'm actually super happy with how it came out. So the only thing we have left to do is this door bar, weld and paint. And then the back here needs to be welded there and painted, and that's it. I mean, there's a little bit of touch up in the bars from when I slid them through the windowsill, or package tray, I guess is what they call it, and that needs to be bent down. So if you can see right there, there's a little hump in it, so I had to angle the bar just right to get it in there at this angle and then turn it. Well, I had to bend that, so I think I'll just bend it back down. But let's get to work. So I need a little bit of fitment here to get this fitting right, and then we need to just burn that guy in. So let's get to it. All right, so as you saw, we got the passenger side footwell welded in, ready to move on to the next step. Took a little lunch, just want to show you what I did. So in the edge here, we have seam sealer, and I tried to grind out as much as I could, but what happens is when you get to this edge, it just wants to bubble up and screw up your weld. And it actually did here and had to fill it in. So that's not beautiful, but for the most part, this whole thing came out just as good as the other side. Very confident. That ain't going anywhere. All right, here we are on location. So as you saw, we got the passenger side burned in. The only thing I haven't done is the bars yet, but the actual mounts and everything to the body are done. Came out pretty good, pretty happy with it. One thing on the other side of this, I'm gonna be honest, I had the settings wrong because I was doing sheet metal last, and I had to do a couple fill-in passes on the other side, but it's all good. It's gonna hold. Looking all right, but there it is. So good news. Perfect clearance, just as I wanted. As much room as possible for the passenger. You can put your arm on it, and then when we're not racing, we can just take the bar out, and then it's, you know, less of a inconvenience to get in and out. If you're watching this and you do this kind of work, if you have one of those blankets, they're great, but my God, do they put fiberglass everywhere. My arms are itchy, my lungs are itchy, throat's itchy. It's a thing. But anyways, so there it is. So that was a lot of work, but pretty happy with how it turned out. There was a few instances where I ended up burning through the sheet metal, but I mean, you're welding 1/8 inch to sheet metal, so it's bound to happen sooner or later. But let me show you the welds. So I had to do some, obviously it's still wet, but I had to do some fill-in work here. So basically, I turned the welder down, I built it up underneath, and then welded over it at the normal rate. Obviously, that's not how you're supposed to be doing it. You're supposed to probably put a filler piece in there, but it's such a small area, I didn't really think it was necessary. But there we are. So again, very happy with it. I need to run some more paint up the bar there. Then this side, similar story. I did end up having to use a mirror. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I had to use a mirror to get back in there just to see. But it actually worked out great. I don't know how I was able to look in the mirror and then use my hand to go the right direction welding, but it worked out. So never done that before. All right, next, let's look at the interior. So had a little fitment issue. So once I welded the back of the cage, I don't know, the door bar like shortened up a smidge, and only this one, not the other side. So that was kind of weird, but we're good now. So I went ahead and just gave it a little shave on the top and the bottom. Not anything noticeable, but had to do it. There we go, swings all the way out. And I dented it because it swings all the way in as well. That was wonderful. There we are. Clank. So that's cool. Door closes easy because it doesn't hit. And then this side, I just took the paint off of it because it was getting a little sticky. It's still a little sticky. Actually, I haven't checked this side since I did the other bar. Oh, that one needs a little work. Okay. But there she is, swings all the way out. Cool. Yeah, we're gonna work on that. Okay, we have an update. So, as you can see, we're playing with harnesses. What I had started on is the package shelf. Got that guy in there. And I cut the slots out and then just used some cardboard that I painted. I'm not sure if there's a better idea, but as of right now, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna put the speakers back in. But then I said, well, I should probably start working on the carpet while I wait for other things to dry. And then realized, oh yeah, I have to mount the harness. So I said, all right, let's start this process. Let's see what this looks like. So if you are familiar with Dragon Drives, Richard Guido is a guy from Canada, and he has the same seats as I do. And I was talking to him, and he said that he just runs his through his headrest. So I may just move this over as a failsafe, but we'll see about that. So then I started looking at the rules for mounting the harness to the floor and discovered that I need to add some tabs. So when you mount the anti-submarine harness, it's supposed to, you know, this is a quick release. So this goes up to basically your belly button, and then the center strap is supposed to go underneath the seat and go to about here and mount. Well, this is so short, and in the rule books it says that OEM seats doesn't have to go through the seat portion. It can actually go around the front. So what has happened, I sat down and figured out that with this, where it's supposed to be on me, strap is short enough that it has to be right there. So then I said, okay, I can do that. But my issue is I bought these with the harness, and you're supposed to be able to mount everything with this. But when you look at this, the question is, do you mount it this way? And then this is turned underneath of you, which is not what you want. Do you mount this at an angle, which doesn't really give me, you know, warm and fuzzies? Or what I decided to do is I have a piece of strap steel, gonna put a spacer down, weld a nut to it, and then we're gonna bolt it in that way. I'll show you what it looks like. And then the side ones, so this one's gonna go right about here. I could use the stock mounting location, but I actually am going to leave the stock seat belts in the car. So well, they're not stock, they're ones I added, but they're 3 points. So I added the mount up here, and then this goes behind the bar, goes down to the retractor. The retractor mounts to the stock location, and then there's a separate portion that has to mount somewhere. Well, what I discovered was right about 45 degrees from me puts me at this plate here, this 6x6 plate that I just put in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mount this tab right to there. I can mount the 5-point and I can mount the 3-point, and then just move the tabs out, or move the straps out of the way when I'm not using them, or take them off, which is a lot easier because I used to mount this to here and it was a real pain to get everything in there. So I actually like that idea better. So, well, listen, I'm not saying I left my best welds for last, but I certainly think that a whole day's worth of practice helps. So there we go. We got one mount. We got another there and there. Decent. So we got boom, boom, 5 mounts. Okay, we're gonna let this stuff cool off. Gonna paint it. It's currently 1 in the morning. I'll get back out here tomorrow, put the interior in. All right, here we are. So as you saw, I just got the interior put together. I'm extremely happy with how this looks. So let's take you on a little tour here. When you get in, you got enough space for your feet. Here's the harness and everything that is temporarily not going to be used. But basically, even with my way back and laid back seating position, an adult can fit back here pretty comfortably, actually. And getting in and out is really not that bad. You have one bar to your left, obviously, but you got a lot of space. So, passenger, driver, everything fits good, everything looks good. I need to finalize the harness. It's a little tight right now. The buckles are up at my collarbones, which is not recommended. But all the mounts and everything worked out perfect. I mean, you still have space for your feet. You don't have to worry about those being in the way. And they are still at the correct angles for everything. So, like I said, very happy. This was one hell of a project, honestly. Like, I knew it was gonna be a lot of work. I didn't realize it was gonna be this much work. I'm glad I did it. Obviously the car needs it, especially once I get the new engine in. But it was way more work than I thought it was going to be. So the only thing left is the sill plates, and then we're gonna start on the engine swap, and there's a few things I gotta do before we even do that. So obviously this was a big win. I'm happy that it's done. However, it's funny because last year I was working on the engine the entire time, and I was so burnt out just working on the engine and just troubleshooting and working on the engine and taking it out and doing all these things, that I was like, man, I wish I could do something else. And now I'm working on this for, 3 weeks, 4 weeks now, and all I want to do is work on the engine. It is what it is. So anyways, thanks for watching. This was probably a long watch. I'm guessing it's probably an hour-long video, and I apologize for that, but there really was a lot to cover here, and it's been a pretty long time for me. It's been 4 weeks, so an hour is not that bad. So check in next time. We got to replace the engine, get it tuned, might throw it on the dyno. There's a lot of stuff to do before Redwood, which is 28 days away, I think. So see you next time.